BookTube, this is Friday Reads. I'm Jen and I talk about audiobooks, and wow, I have a lot to tell you about that I read last week. I read 6 books last week, which I just find ridiculous. How did I get that done? I have no idea. Other than to tell you that I do seriously have an addiction to YA fluffy, light, contemporary romance at the moment. I don't know what it is. I think I need an intervention. I've just gotten, I don't know, maybe it's the weather. I don't know. Time of year, whatever. I've just been really loving some of these little books that I pick up, and I get through them really quickly. Run across some really good ones. So let me just tell you about them. I'll start off with Did I Mention I Need You and Did I Mention I Miss You, which are books 2 and 3 in the Did I Mention I Love You trilogy by Estelle Meskeme. I read these on my iPad because they're not available on audio. And these are not protagonists that do smart things. They're very flawed, and they do stuff that I didn't approve of, I didn't like. I thought, But I have to say kudos to Estelle Meskeme, because at 19 years old, she has, first of all, gotten a publishing deal, and second of all, been able to create characters that don't always do the right thing all the time, and they are complex. You know, for as young as she is to be writing something that can, you know, compete pretty much with anything else out there that's like it, and I think that's pretty amazing. I gave these books 3 stars because I think they're pretty average in terms of the writing and the story. But, you know, I'm really impressed with her, I have to tell you, and I am interested in what she does next. So 3 stars for both of those. Then I picked up When It's Real by Erin Watt. It is on audio. It just came out recently. It's on audio, but I was able to get a copy of it as an ebook, so I just read it that way. It's about a boy who is the son of famous parents, and he got a record deal at about 14 years old, and now I think he's 19, and he wants to work with a producer who thinks that his sound and his maturity level are just too young. You know, the guy doesn't want to work with him because he thinks you don't have it together yet. So his PR, the kid's PR team, decides they're going to clean up his image by finding him a wholesome kind of a girlfriend. So they hire this girl, pay her a lot of money to act like his girlfriend. A lot of what happens takes place on social media with Twitter, and there are some headings at the chapters of fans tweeting, which is kind of cute. So it's a sweet romance, very sweet romance. And because I respond to books and I rate them on Goodreads based on how I emotionally feel after I finish them, I gave this 4 stars. And then I talked with Michaela about it, and you know, she pointed out a lot of things that are wrong with the book. There are a lot of things thrown into the plot that are never followed up on, a lot of loose dangling ends. So because of all that, I dropped it down to 3. And then I thought about it, and I thought, I liked this book a lot. I really did. I know it has its problems, but the overall feel of it just felt really fun to me, and I really liked it. So I upped it back up again to 4 stars. Cute little YA contemporary. Then I picked up Alex Approximately by Jen Bennett. This is the cutest story, and if you read the synopsis, that's the entire book. It's about a girl and a boy who have a relationship going on online in like a forum where they IM each other and talk about old movies. And she moves to his hometown but doesn't tell him because she's not exactly sure, you know, about the online thing. Then she meets a boy, starts working with him, falls for him, and kind of just puts the other online guy off, not realizing it's the same person. Now, I'm not spoiling this for you because it's in the synopsis, but it's the cutest story. Now, in a lot of these sorts of books, I get really annoyed because I'm wondering when the protagonist is going to catch up and get a clue, because she takes the whole book to figure this out. And yet, this was such a great journey. As it went along, things were revealed about her life and her history and his life and his history. He's a surfer. She is all into vintage everything. She styles her hair like Lana Turner, and she wears a lot of vintage clothing, and it was just delightful. I knew I was in love with this book when I read She Has the Strength of a Tater Tot. I thought it was line after line after line, just like that one. Kind of these wry looks at the world, and it was just delightful. I absolutely loved it. It's a sweet story. Definitely a wonderful, wonderful book, and I gave it 5 stars because of that. On audio, I picked up Somebody to Love by Kristan Higgins, and I finished that out early in the week. That was narrated by Justine Eyre, and I think I told you last week that Justine Eyre is not a favorite narrator of mine, but I sped her up, and it was okay. She has a whine to her voice that really just bugs me so very much. And when you speed her up, you lose a fair amount of that. So, you know, she's not a narrator that I think I'm going to avoid in the future, but I'm definitely going to speed her up every time I listen to a book that she narrates. I didn't realize she narrated this book, or I wouldn't have picked it up on audio, but it's classic Kristan Higgins. It's book 3 in her Gideon's Cove series, and it just, you know, it had Kristan Higgins' voice, her tone, the flavor. It was a great romance that happened over time. Kristan Higgins has several kind of signature things that she does in her books, and so I like that. And so I really enjoyed that one, and I gave it 4 stars. And the other thing I finished this week was Avenged by Amy Tintera. This is book 2 in the Ruined series. I don't know if that's going to be a trilogy or more books, because you never know these days. It was narrated on audio by Emily Rankin, and the narration was okay. I wouldn't say that it was bad in any way. It was altogether good, but it wasn't amazing. And I don't know if it really enhanced the book, but I wasn't that impressed with the book. So I'm not sure if it was some combination of the two that made me just look at this like it's a 3-star book for me. This is young adult fantasy. Now, I really like Amy Tintera. I loved her reboot Rebel Duology, and I was really surprised that I didn't like this any better than I did. It felt like it needed more weight, and I've been thinking a lot about what was wrong with it for me, and I think this felt like a lot of kids playing at being kings and queens and making these Game of Thrones kinds of decisions. There's a lot of blood and gore and strategizing and war, and yet it had such a young feel to it. It was like, I don't know, it was like kids playing at all of this. But I think what would help this book a lot is to have some older characters who are peripheral, but who have a voice in what's happening, and who are giving up a little bit of guidance. There is magic involved, and so, you know, overall, I gave it 3 stars because I'm interested in the story. I think, and I like Amy Tintera. I'm willing to give it, you know, a chance because of that. And the first book was okay. I have a feeling that what I think is wrong, or what I feel like is wrong with this trilogy, is the same kind of thing that people think about the Red Queen series by Victoria Aveyard. It's just, it doesn't have enough weight. It's like it doesn't take itself quite as seriously as it should. And not in a flippant, ha-ha, funny kind of a way, but just a way that it just needs more depth to it. So I'm going to read the 3rd book. I'm definitely going to do that. And I'm hoping that it has that. I'm hoping it kind of recovers the trilogy for me. This book doesn't have middle book syndrome really at all. It's just what I said. It just needs more weight. Currently, I am about a half an hour from finishing up Stupid Girl by Cindy Miles. This is narrated by Elizabeth Evans, and Elizabeth Evans is amazing in this book. She is flipping between a girl in Texas with a Texas accent, which she's doing very well. And I know the difference between Texas and Georgia and Tennessee and you know, I know the difference. I've heard all these accents and I pay attention to that kind of stuff because I like that. And she's doing this great Texas accent, and then she switches right off the bat. I mean, just flawlessly into Boston. The other main character is from Boston, and it's amazing. I'm so impressed with this narrator and her ability to do that. Wow, I'm just really impressed. So this is new adult contemporary. It's about a girl and a boy, and he's a baseball player and she's a girl, and she's got history and trauma in her background, and it's a sweet story. It really is. It's, you know, your average new adult contemporary sort of thing. You know, it's just like every other one, but it's got its own flavor, and I like it. I like it. So I'm listening to that. I'm also listening to Prom Night in Purgatory by Amy Harmon, which is narrated by Emily Wu Zeller. I was kind of flipping around on my iPod, kind of sampling things, thinking, okay, I'm going to listen to everything on here before I load anything new. And I liked her voice. So I started listening to Slow Dance in Purgatory by Amy Harmon, and I thought, I've read this. And I looked on Goodreads, and I didn't mark it as read, so I don't know what happened. I'm not sure exactly, but I'd already read it, so I picked up the sequel, which is Prom Night in Purgatory. It's kind of a ghost story. A ghost who is a boy in 1958, and a girl who is, you know, a contemporary girl, and their relationship, their romance. And so in the sequel, he has come back to life, but he has no memory. And she's devastated because he doesn't remember her. So I'm enjoying that. I'm not that far into it yet, but Amy Harmon has kind of a melancholic voice to her writing, and so that's always interesting. I don't pick up her books readily, but I always enjoy them when I read them. So I'm listening to that, and then I also picked up A Quiet Kind of Thunder by, who is that by? By somebody that I forget. I can't remember her name. But that just came out recently. That's just another new young adult contemporary, like the ones I've been reading, about a girl who is mute and a boy who is deaf, and their connection is sign language. So I think that's going to be very sweet. So that is what I'm reading this weekend. When I finish in the next half hour, Stupid Girl, I think what I'm going to pick up is Angel's Blood by Nalini Singh, because I've had it sitting there ready to read or to listen to, and I forget who narrates it, but I'll put it here on the screen. But that's adult paranormal romance, and I haven't listened to any of that lately. So, and I don't really know anything about her except that everybody likes her. So I'm going to give that a go. We'll see. Actually, I heard Louise, the big-haired bookworm, talk about that whole series, which is why I want to pick it up at all. So if you haven't gone and watched any of her videos, she is an absolute delight. You definitely need to go watch her videos because she's so much fun. I look forward to her. When I see her in my YouTube feed, I immediately go to her videos because I always know I'm going to love it. So that's my weekend. That's my week. Let me know what you're reading because I always want to know. I always love talking to you in comments about that. And so that's it for now for me. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend. I will see you next time.